This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton has said, contrary to allegations which have been circulating, no notice was issued by former Chief Medical Officer Dr. Winston Delahaye for the closure of the Cornwall Regional Hospital in St. James. The Health Minister made that argument while addressing the issue in the House of Representatives yesterday. His statement led to a shouting match between MPs on both sides of the aisle. Here's more in this report. Speaking in the House of Representatives Tuesday afternoon, Dr. Tufton said no attempt was made to overrule any closure notice issued for the Cornwall Regional Hospital.
The then Chief Medical Officer, who had the authority to issue a closure notice, did not do so after. This is important. The then Chief Medical Officer, who has the authority, not me as Minister, he has the authority to issue a closure notice, did not issue a closure notice. He made a recommendation which was the subject of a meeting, after which he clearly stated that a closure notice would not be issued. And I think that is very important for the records, Mr. Speaker, for fear that some think that we overruled the Chief Medical Officer. We can't do that.
But opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Dayton Campbell, claimed that Dr. Tufton had misled the House with incorrect information in parts of his statement. Dr. Campbell said it appears the Chief Medical Officer was made to change his initial recommendation.
Not being able to tell these persons what is causing their symptoms. That's what the Chief Medical Officer and the technocrats came to a conclusion that we need to close because we do not know what is causing the symptoms.
Dr. Tufton retorted, accusing Dr. Campbell of carrying out a shameful act of deception.
This is the correspondence that he reads from, but conveniently leaves out the final line of that correspondence dated February 28, 2017, addressed to myself and the Permanent Secretary, written by the then CMO, sent to two of us. I keep emphasizing that because obviously there's a breach somewhere in terms of correspondence. The last line that says, the last line which he conveniently omits, says, please note that a notice for evacuation will not be issued.
Member of Parliament Daryl Vaz also added to the debate, suggesting that Dr. Campbell has been calling for the closure of the Cornwall Regional Hospital in order to benefit through his interest in a private health facility in St. James. Following his assertions, Parliament descended into chaos.
As such may be conflicted by his strident calls for the closure or downsizing of the Cornwall Regional Hospital.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, rubbish, sit down and shut your mouth in the garden. Rubbish you're talking. Rubbish you're talking. Rubbish you're talking.
However, the House was told that Dr. Campbell had already made a declaration on the matter. Eventually, the House voted to suspend the rest of the sitting at approximately 7:20 p.m. after opposition MPs rejected a proposal from Speaker Pernell Charles to suspend until other matters on the agenda for the day were discussed. The Health Ministry is planning an education campaign to stem what it said is an increase in the spread of scabies and tinea ringworm of the scalp, island-wide. Dr. Susan Stratton Johnson, medical officer at the Kingston and St. Andrew Health Department, made the revelation in a report to yesterday's meeting of the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, the KSAMC, Parish Disaster Preparedness and Public Health Committee. The report stated that the scabies and ringworm cases so far this year have been above the trend for 2017. However, the report did not state the number of cases of ringworm for the period January to March 2017 or for the comparative period in 2018. The report also pointed out that ringworm is very contagious and can be spread through human to human or direct skin-to-skin contact with an infected person. Through contact with objects or surfaces that an infected person or animal has touched, such as clothing, towels, combs, or brushes. From animals to humans, through dogs, especially puppies, cats, and kittens that are often carriers. Other animals that are carriers of ringworm include cows, goats, and pigs. Russian aluminum company UC Rusal says it intends to continue operations in Jamaica despite a threat by the United States government to impose sanctions on it. This was disclosed Tuesday afternoon by Mining Minister Robert Montague in a statement to the House of Representatives. Rusal has owned Windalco bauxite plant in St. Catherine since 2007. There were fears that hundreds of jobs at Windalco's plant in Newton, St. Catherine were at risk. But Mr. Montague said he has been holding crisis talks with Russian representatives and U.S. officials on the likely impact of these sanctions.
UC Rusal has expressed an intention to continue operating in Jamaica as normal. The Ministry of Transport and Mining analysis indicate that normal operations will become increasingly difficult, especially if the company refuses to dilute its ownership to conform with the sanctions, and various suppliers of goods and services elect to refuse its business out of fear of secondary sanctions from the United States. Windalco's Newton refinery therefore faces the possibility of significant disruption in production given the pending difficulties and increased costs to source and import raw materials, especially flocculants, caustic soda, fuel, and spare parts. However, it has indicated that it will, if necessary, import these products from Russia and other places.
The United States on Monday gave American customers of Russia's biggest aluminum producer more time to comply with sanctions, and it said it would consider lifting them if Rusal's major shareholder, Russian tycoon Oleg Deripaska, ceded control of the company. Minister Montague touched on that issue as well.
The primary modification, Mr. Speaker, is a delay in the timetable for companies and individuals to wind down contracts and other engagements with UC Rusal until October 23, 2018. Also, the U.S. Department Treasury Office of Foreign Asset Control issued a statement that the U.S. will, and we quote, will not impose secondary sanctions on non-U.S. persons for engaging in the same activities involving Rusal or its subsidiaries that the General License 14 authorized.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness is again calling on Jamaicans to assist the police in the fight against crime, especially in identifying criminals in their communities. Speaking at a groundbreaking ceremony yesterday for the construction of 230 housing units in southwest St. Andrew, Mr. Holness stressed that the government is doing as much as it can with the resources available to put measures in place to protect innocent citizens and observe and secure their rights whilst bringing down the crime rate. He said much of the intelligence is garnered from citizens who are willing to tell what they know, adding that persons should not fear providing information as they will be protected. The Joint Select Committee of Parliament examining the Sexual Offences Act and related laws will meet on May 11 and 12 to complete its review of the statutes. Committee Chairman Delroy Chuck says lawmakers will be given a matrix of the various submissions made by members of the public. Chuck says committee members will be required to vote on recommendations that will form part of the report to be submitted to Parliament. In regional news, the Parliament of Antigua and Barbuda has passed a bill to amend the act which governs the work of nurses in the Twin Island nation despite protest. The Mount St. John Amendment Bill was passed this week, but nurses say it disenfranchises some of its colleagues. However, ABS News reports that the amendments were made before it was passed. Here's more in this report.
Persons, including other healthcare workers, protested against the amendment to the 2009 that governs the operation of the Mount St. John's Medical Center. The placard-bearing protesters gathered outside the Parliament building on Queen Elizabeth Highway to register their displeasure. The gallery of the Parliament was packed as the nurses gathered to await the debate. President of the Antigua Barbuda Public Service Association, Joan Peters, was of the belief that the proposed amendments she saw would displace workers at the Mount St. John's Medical Center.
If we apply to the board, we have to apply for our jobs. And if we apply to the board, there's no guarantee that the board will absorb you. And if the board don't absorb you, or you choose not to be absorbed, he's saying that we're going to be, and that can happen in the Civil Service, because the Civil Service Act and regulation, neither the Pension Act, nothing at all speaks to redundancy for workers.
Peters labeled it the victimization bill and listed the persons who participated in the protest.
It's not only Mount St. John persons alone, because if you get through with one set, you will eventually get through with the next set, right? And so we're all standing in solidarity of each other. We don't have no timeline. Whatever the process is, that is what we will go through. There's no know what's happening today. We don't know. That is a question I cannot answer. It might be done the next minute from now, I don't know.
Political leader of the United Progressive Party, Harold Lovell, was among the protesters, noting that he was in agreement with his decision to protest. Later in the morning, as the bill was debated, Prime Minister, the Honourable Gaston, insisted his government listened to the concerns of the people and made the necessary adjustments.
Clearly, there were concerns of this particular bill, and the concerns ended up in the public domain. The Minister and the Honourable Attorney General obviously heard the concerns, and certain amendments were made, amendments that will be considered at the committee stage. But I want to make it abundantly clear that it was never the intent of the government to create any form of hardship for the nurses. In fact, to the contrary.
Prime Minister Brown explained that the changes would redound to the benefit of the health workers, but there was a misunderstanding because of the words used.
The debates surrounding the repatriation of some 82 Venezuelans from Trinidad and Tobago last weekend continues. The opposition has weighed in, questioning the government's management of the influx of people fleeing the South American country due to its economic crisis. TV6 News' Joel Brown reports.
Speaking with TV6 News via telephone, opposition MP Dr. Burendrat Tawari said the repatriation of the Venezuelans, including 40 who sought refugee status in Trinidad and Tobago, is a major concern.
You cannot keep them for an inordinate time in detention centers as if they were criminals. And you cannot send them home in a plane in collaboration with the government from which they are fleeing. I think a terrible error of judgment has been made here.
He said while any nation has the right to protect its borders from those seeking to do harm, humanity requires that the government find a humane solution to manage the situation while having effective control of the borders.
Illegal immigrants and refugees are two different things, and I think you have to treat them differently. And even illegal immigrants in a situation where they are fleeing political and economic upheaval in a country, one has to be a little more sensitive. I'm not saying open the borders and take all the Venezuelans who come to Trinidad and Tobago. I am saying that the government must have a plan. They must be organized.
Meanwhile, the opposition MP said he is not legitimizing the hiring of illegal immigrants from Venezuela or anywhere else.
In sports, Guyana's football boss is expecting a good showing from the country's senior women's squad at the Caribbean Football Senior Qualifiers.
The Guyana's senior female team, the Lady Jacks, have arrived in of the CFU qualifiers today. Guyana will play Grenada in the opening match on Wednesday. Has been placed in Group E and will be one of the 5 host nations along with Dominican Republic and Antigua and Barbuda. President of the says he expects the ladies to give a good account of themselves.
Preparation for the local girls, the girls that are part of our local contingent, has been decent. The international girls have been playing frequently within their competitions, so they are coming with what we expect to be a good fitness level. Reports that I've had engaging with the and the management team is that they're very, very positive to really stamp their authority on this competition, all in preparation for the CONCACAF qualification.
And that's the news. Do stay with us. The weather report is next. This is PBCJ's weather report. Thanks so much for staying with us. Let's start with our local currents. In Kingston this afternoon, we're seeing a forecast of some cloudy conditions, but it should be predominantly sunny. We're seeing a temperature just about 28 degrees Celsius, but it's pretty warm out, so it feels like 31 degrees though. Wind speed is south-southeast at 9 kilometers per hour. Over there in Antigua Bay, St. James, it's warm out at just about 29 degrees Celsius. Humidity is at 70% and wind speed is north-northeast at 9 kilometers per hour. Let's take a look at Portland right now, where we're seeing cloudy conditions for Portland. And for the Marinas, wind speed east at 17 kilometers per hour. Although it's pretty warm out, we're seeing a temperature just about 26 degrees Celsius. Across the island today, we can expect scattered showers in areas like Golden Grove, St. Thomas, and over there in Oterius, St. Anne. We're seeing temperatures between 28 and 31 degrees Celsius. In our forecast for tomorrow, though, we're looking at rainfall in the western end of the island. It should be pretty sunny out across most parishes. We're seeing temperatures between 28 and 32 degrees Celsius. Let's go across the region. We're looking at our forecast for tomorrow. Those of us who are traveling to Cuba, you can expect some rainfall in the western end of that country. We're also seeing cloudy conditions forecast for the Bahamas, pretty sunny out in the eastern end of the Caribbean. We're seeing temperatures between 28 and 29 degrees Celsius. And further afield over to the United States, we're seeing a minimum temperature 11 degrees Celsius with a high 37 degrees Celsius. The highest forecast temperature is in Los Angeles for tomorrow. We're looking at sunny skies for Miami and some rainfall for New York and Atlanta. That's it for the weather report. Thanks so much for making it PBCJ. Remember, we are the People's Station.